Hello, and welcome again to another episode of Inside Voices First Takes. I am your host, Colin.
And I'm Adam Rubin.
Yes, he is. And we are here to discuss what we just seen from the theater, Wonder Woman. Now, that is really the wrong pitch, but my best attempt.
Yeah, just the worst singing anyone's ever done.
So before we go on with Wonder Woman, let's just say to our viewers, we know we were supposed to do Pirates of the Caribbean last week. Sadly, events unfolded where we couldn't do it. We also promised to do Fast and the Furious 8 as well. Again, family events on my end prevented us from doing that, but we are back to do Wonder Woman. So, Adam, your first impressions, you just saw the movie. What do you think?
My first impression, caveat, right? Going into Wonder Woman, expectations were high. There'd been buzz about it. It looked good. I was excited about it. So, I mean, I had very high expectations going in, and I think that's important to say. And it totally blew them away. What a great movie! Go see the movie. Go see it. Oh, so good. So good. And surprisingly emotional and lovely. Go see the movie. I thought it was great. What a win for DC, finally, after so much nonsense.
Well, that's why I'm surprised you said you went in with high expectations. I mean, had you not seen the previous three movies?
Well, certainly not high DC expectations, but just for Wonder Woman, because, Godot, and it looked good. The previews were fun. I was like, I think this might be fun.
Yeah.
Not only was it fun, I thought it was heartfelt. I thought it was lovely. I thought it was some interesting stuff in it. The performances were good. Everything was good. I liked it. I liked it a lot. 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
9 out of 10, Colin. I really liked the movie.
9 out of 10.
Liked it.
All right.
What'd you think?
So me going into it, me kind of appreciating the DC movies a little bit more than you. And I don't love them. You know, I quite enjoyed Man of Steel. Batman vs. Superman has problems, as we've talked about.
Watch our studio episode on
Batman. Episode 2, everybody. And Suicide Squad, God, it could have been great, but it really wasn't.
It sure wasn't, though, was it?
But it had potential still, I thought.
Sure wasn't, though, was it?
Finally, though, this is DC's, I think, across the board, this DC Universe's best movie. Let's just be clear.
Now, let's be extra clear. Are you including the Nolan Batman movies in that?
No, that's not part of the DC universe.
Okay.
No,
all right.
It's standalone. It's its own franchise.
Okay, fine.
But how great is it that the first critically acclaimed, and hopefully it'll earn a lot of box office money as well, but the first critically acclaimed movie in this DC world is Wonder Woman. That's a great thing. I'm so happy that Wonder Woman in her first time out got this much appreciation, and just they got it right. They so got it right, and I'm just so happy right now.
They did.
I don't know if I give it a 9, but definitely I say an 8, a solid 8.
Did you see it close enough. Let's not bicker over a point between friends. Did you see it in 3D?
No.
Okay, and I did, and I actually think this is one of those rare movies where it added to the experience.
Okay.
I think it was good to see in 3D. So for those of you who are going to go see it, which hopefully is all of you now, because it's great, you should see it. So if you can get it in 3D, see it in 3D. If you're someone who can tolerate that, I thought the 3D was very good and very immersive.
So I say, it is a see it. Go to the theater and see it. And Adam, I would think you're a must see it. You absolutely must.
I think if you're watching this, you got to go see it. You got to go see it. If you have any passing interest in it at all, it's the best of all of them by a wide margin, because they're awful except for this one. But I think this was better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I mean, 9 out of 10. I thought it was great.
I'd agree. It's better than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So for those of you at home, that's a must see from Adam. It's also a C from me. So go see it right now. We'll wait. And from this point on,
but leave your computer on. Leave this video running while you go see it.
Right. Leave it running. We need the views. And now we're going to go into spoilers from this point on. Okay. All right, Adam. Can we just talk how glorious Gal Gadot? Yeah, like these movies. Okay, before
Oh
Batman v Superman,
man.
before Wonder Woman, the
Yes.
only thing we were really familiar with her was the Fast and Furious franchise, which, to be fair, not known for its great acting. you
No.
know,
No, it
so
isn't.
really, I didn't know much about how great an actress she was from those movies going into this character and to this franchise that hopefully will last a long time.
Now I
But
did.
what?
I said now I did because I saw her in Keeping Up with the Joneses, where she was very good.
Oh, okay, again, is that movie known for its acting caliber?
Well, but she and John
Crappy
Hamm,
movie to be mentioning.
John Hamm were clearly very good at their roles in that movie. They were both very charming.
Okay, but like this movie, it's not just about being charming. It's also the
It's a lot
character of
about
Wonder
being
Woman,
charming.
the character of Wonder Woman, especially how she played it, was so great in terms of like it's a little bit, she has to be a little naive. Actually, has to be a lot naive,
Very naive, yeah.
but it's got to be a charming naive, okay, which is
Yes.
hard to balance with it. And then she's got to be charming naive, and then total badass when we get into action scenes. And oh my god, she just is Wonder Woman after this movie. Nobody else. And I know there was criticism before, like, oh, is she going to be the right choice? Yes, is the answer to all your questions. She is the right choice. Would
She
you
nailed it. I
concur?
agree. And her sincerity, she had a charm, a wonderful sincerity about her.
Ah, I see what
She
you did
could
there.
deliver these.
Wonderful.
Happens.
Uh-huh.
She's also a woman. Let's just get that out of the way.
What?
So I know. She identifies as a woman. I am told.
Hmm.
No, her sincerity was just really on point. You
Yeah.
bought it. I thought the chemistry between her and what's his face was pretty good.
Captain Kirk?
Yeah, Captain Kirk, exactly.
Mhm.
Who was he was pretty good throughout the whole thing. I mean, he obviously is charming.
Yeah.
There were some moments where I felt like wasn't quite taking it. I don't know. He didn't play the whole time for me, but the chemistry between the two of them I thought was very nice, and enough to justify her reaction at the end, of course.
Yeah.
When he dies and that's the sort of catalyst for her to really really lose it in that fight against Ares. That was, I bought that, and that was crucial, of course, to the whole
Yeah.
thing.
I agree. I agree. I like the chemistry between the two. I mean, yeah, Chris Pine is not the focus of the movie, so
No.
his character, he plays the line between, he wants to do the right thing, but he's also a spy, and that kind of goes against Diana's black and white mentality of right and wrong. And and it's a great. I also appreciated the World War I setting because it would be easy to have this movie take place in World War II, where it's a lot more obvious in terms of who's bad and who's good in the war. I mean, World War One is also good and evil, but as you saw, like, between No Man's Land, it can get confusing, because it's trench warfare. It's not as easy to identify, Germans, because they're all covered in mud, just like the Allies are. So I appreciate a little bit more, and just because we haven't seen World War One that much in movies as much, I appreciate it, putting that setting for the Diana's first entrance as well. So
And
yeah,
of course, famously in World War One, there was that I don't even know what to call it, but that incident over Christmas where both sides decided to sort of take a Christmas break from the war to
right.
celebrate together before they went back to their trenches.
Like
So,
the Christmas Day Miracle, or the Christmas Day Armistice, or something. Yeah.
right.
We kind of got something like that after the Ares fight, where like the sunrise is happening, and Germans and the good guys are like hugging each other, saying, "I think we're done fighting for now." So that's a little homage to that moment. I appreciated it. Yeah.
I thought it worked for that reason. And also, I thought it worked because the technology was not so crazy that it would have really blown the Wonder Woman thing out of the water. We know obviously she's able to be very fast and deflect some bullets, but if it was full blown World War II and everybody was in a tank and this and that, I mean, it could have gotten a little bit silly.
Yeah.
I thought that the World War I, the way they did it was like just enough that she got to do some really cool things, and stretched the limits, certainly, with her, shielding herself from the machine gun fire and whatnot. But just on this side of, okay, that's pretty badass, as opposed to like, oh, give me a break, every little thing
Yeah,
she's invincible from.
speaking of the action, can we say, like, because there are moments, especially, I think, let's point out, like, the one is specifically her, like, entrance into World War One, when she crosses no man's land and goes into the village and starts taking everybody out. Can we
Beautiful, really beautiful.
Beautiful. But you notice, like, I wonder, because if you notice, like, there are some slow-mo moments that are reminiscent of Zack Snyder's work from Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. But this movie
and from 300 really is what it's most reminiscent of.
Well, that's where you got the big start from. But this movie was able to take, I think, because some people are turned off by the whole Zack Snyder really slow-mo, over-the-top explosion.
The time ramping, yeah.
Right. But this movie did a better job, I thought, like, not using it too much, but using it effectively, along with, like, normal speed, sword play or lassoing. I think this movie also will, because Zack Snyder had a hand in the story in this movie. He didn't direct it, but he had a hand with the story. So maybe I think he maybe helped a little bit with the action. But I think,
of course, he is still a producer, so yeah,
right.
I'm sure he was involved.
I think it helped for him to take a step back so that the director could, use it as much as she wanted to, which was not too much, which I think benefited because, for that period setting to have extra slow-mo and all that, what we've seen in other movies, I didn't think it would work. So I appreciate how they handled, balancing the Snyder effect with having it still be a Wonder Woman movie, which was a good balance, I think.
And inherently, because the main characters, and especially the main characters in all the action sequences, are either Wonder Woman or the other Amazons, they're very balletic in their movements, and that lends itself more to slow motion than certain other kinds of action do.
That's a good point.
You're going to have a frame, and every frame you have is going to be inherently graceful.
Yeah.
And the slow-mo emphasizes the grace, as opposed to in some movies where it's used because, like, in full speed it would be too confusing about exactly what was happening, which is a valid use of slow motion, but not as effective, not as emotionally effective anyway, as this one, where you really, every time there was slow motion, you go, ooh, that's a great image. That's just a beautiful image.
The one that comes to mind for me is involving Wonder Woman's trainer, where she, like, takes, like, the 3 arrows and shoots 3. That pose, because it was slow, like, make that my screenshot, please. So
just because you brought up the screenshot thing, the end credits, end credits sequence was animated. That's the greatest screensaver I ever seen in my life.
Very great,
so fun,
very great.
Even better in 3D, I will say. Even better in 3D, but, like, I really genuinely want that as my screensaver.
I'd agree. They were very glorious end credits.
They were.
In terms of
is a rare compliment for a movie. I think we can both agree. Glorious end credits.
Glorious end credits. I mean, yeah, not every movie can say that, for sure.
Since there was no there's
no bonus scene. No, there's no end credits bonus scene. So
there were a lot of disappointed people in my theater. We all stayed to the end of the credits. People were expecting somebody to say something.
They should have known better. That's a Marvel thing. DC doesn't do that. So come on, people, you should know better.
They've been well trained by superhero movies.
Yeah, true. Speaking of Marvel, you know what movie I thought of the most while watching it? This movie kind of reminded me a lot of the first Thor, because you technically have a god coming to, like, the rest of Earth, kind of naive about, what life is like here, and it's funny, but it's also kind of charming as well. And then there's a big, destructive thing against another god by the end of the movie. But this movie just did it so much better than Thor for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, I think the reason is because this movie had so much more nuance. Like, Thor's a bumbling, hammer swinging guy, just sort of trouncing his way through the world and trying to meet a girl, and he's sort of dumb and lovable because he's such a brute. Whereas this one was all about this woman who seems vulnerable but turns out to be invulnerable. Like, she's physically invulnerable, but she's emotionally very vulnerable. And Thor doesn't have that. Thor is not emotionally vulnerable either. Like, he's very aloof and confident, and she's so sensitive that it really adds a lot of layers to this thing.
Yeah. I would argue that, Thor's journey in his first movie was more about himself finding out, whereas Wonder Woman, yes, she finds out more about herself, but it's more about her finding out about humanity, and the rest of the planet and how it's so against what she initially thought of. So let's add some more gravity to it. Yeah.
Way more gravity. And of course, just literally the setting is a much graver. I mean, the stakes of the Thor movie are
True.
Cyclops is gonna laze the town
Right.
and like
the
all
small
right.
New Mexican pueblo out in the desert, right?
Right, but it's so flashy, and like we know that he's not really gonna laze the town. It's just a superhero kind of problem. Where of course Wonder Woman, it's a real problem. Like we know it's real. World War I was real.
Yeah.
So the fight with Ares is the least significant part, really, of the stakes of the movie. The stakes of the movie are all about are these horrible, all-encompassing wars humanity's fate, or can they, at some level, rise above that and be better than that? And that we know is a real, actual, in our life problem. It was much more adult. It was a much more adult superhero movie,
right,
than others have been.
Yeah,
which I really appreciated.
And that message or that theme ties into also what Bruce Wayne in these movies is trying to determine as well. Like at the end of BVS, he thinks men are still good after seeing what Superman did, and because before that movie, Wonder Woman had, like, after World War I, we think, not been involved in anything since then. She kind of got a little disenfranchised or disheartened.
Disenchanted.
Disenchanted.
She did not get disenfranchanted.
Did I say disenfranchised? Okay. Thank you.
She's empowered, but she's disenchanted.
Okay. Thank you, Webster.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so because of the BVS events, and helping her find the old, reminiscent photo of Steve and the gang back in the day, and seeing Bruce step up and trying to, save the planet helps her also say, okay, men do have the potential to be good. Like I remember back in World War I. So it did a nice tie-in also, but not too much tie-in with the other movies, which I appreciated as well. Nice continuity.
So, given that Wonder Woman was so good, do you have hope for the Justice League?
I mean, I'll always have hope for it, but I don't know if you heard,
hope for that movie.
But Joss is actually taking over for the finishing of that movie because Zack Snyder had a family tragedy. So Joss is going to have a say in the final cut of Justice League, and Joss brought us the first Avengers movie. So, yes, I mean, I have hope. Okay. But I mean, most of the movies, 95% of the movie is still Zack Snyder. So we'll just have to see. I
got no hope for that movie.
Can I just say one of my quick critiques, because why I don't give it like a perfect score, whatever?
Mm-hmm.
They never call her Wonder Woman in this movie.
No.
I want the end to be like, how did she get the name? I've seen a movie called Wonder Woman, and they never reference that.
Every action she takes is how she got the name. All right, whatever. I know you need the rule book for your movie.
Not a rule book, but for a movie called Wonder
together.
Woman, you would think she would earn the name at some point by somebody would
definitely earns the name. People don't have to say it. She earned it. No, everybody who would have said it was dead by the end of that movie.
Well, then say it back in the World War I. The war was over. He's like, oh, she's this woman who's wonderful. She's the Wonder Woman. Something. A little aside.
Not necessary. It's a more adult movie than that. They don't have to say the title of the movie in this movie.
Well, anyway, but I'm glad the music had the main theme again. The acting was great. Effects were great. The Ares was a nice little twist, I thought. So for sure, we both agree it's a definite must-see.
Definite must-see. Absolutely. And I would say it's my second favorite of these modern superhero movies. What's all of them.
What's number one?
Number one is Logan.
Oh, okay.
10 out of 10. Logan is 10 out of 10. Perfect movie.
That's an excellent movie, so that's something else. So
a subject for another time. But for this evening, thanks for joining us, everybody. We hope you enjoyed our first take on Wonder Woman. If you did, leave us a comment down below. Ask us any questions. Let us know which movie you'd like us to see next. And we'll see you back here next time for another episode of Inside Voices.